Now, it's good. Okay. Sorry for the delay. So I'll try to end a little bit early because we have the drama and we want to finish up everything, the cleanup before that drama starts. So today I will be talking about the reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance, right? We know that, as was announced, we have Gaur Purnima, which is the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya coming up on this coming Thursday. So hope to see everyone there. And also thank you for coming today for our Sunday Love Feast program. So firstly, I would like to thank Nilamani Prabhu for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today. I do not have qualification to speak on this topic, especially this one is quite a confidential topic. So forgive me for any mistakes that I will inevitably make, but please also give me your blessing so that I may say something that is of use to you. So first, we do the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Lord Chaitanya is, who is he? Right? He's on our altar here, right in the middle. Closest one to this side is Lord Chaitanya. Next to him is Lord Nityananda. And as the slide says, right, Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is non-different from Lord Krishna. Right? Everyone knows, like around the world, Lord Krishna is more well-known, but Lord Chaitanya is probably less well-known. So today's class will hopefully clarify if anyone has any doubts about who is Lord Chaitanya and why he appeared. So Lord Chaitanya appeared around 500 years ago in 1486 in Navadvip, India, right? This is in West Bengal, like on the western side. And his parents, right, Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, they, he was born to them, and he manifested his appearance at a time where there was a decline in religious values, religious principles. There was an increase in impersonalism all around the world. So it was actually a very appropriate time for his appearance, as we'll go into later. His descent is extremely rare, right? So he appears once in a day of Brahma. So Lord Brahma appears, one day of Brahma occurs once every 8.64 billion years, right, with a B. So think about that, right? 500 years ago, he appeared, And that's an event that occurs once every 8.64 billion years, right? So it's almost like just a moment ago, Lord, in the grand scheme of time, that Lord Chaitanya appeared. So we're very lucky in that sense that we get to take advantage of what he gave us because it's still very fresh, right? It just happened. Now, just real quickly, right? One day of Brahma, just to give you some context around that timeline, right? One day of Brahma is around 1,000 yuga cycles. And then one night of Brahma is another 1,000 yuga cycles. And I may be getting math wrong here, but basically so that means in each 1,000 yuga cycles is 4.32 billion years, times 2 equals 8.64 billion years. So Lord Chaitanya appears once in that day of Brahma. Gives you some context of, like, we're just so minuscule, right? We appear just for a fleeting, brief speck of time, and compared to Lord Brahma's time, we're just like here, just so temporarily, it doesn't even count almost. And then one yuga cycle, so 2,000, that's basically 2,000 yuga cycles. And one yuga cycle consists of the 4 yugas, right? Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Right? So we'll go into that a bit more later. And Lord Chaitanya appeared, and we'll go into this in a lot more detail. This is more of a summary. But he appeared in a form that concealed his real identity as the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna. He appeared as a devotee of Lord Krishna and in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So he is kind of in like a concealed form. So he's considered one like the most merciful incarnation, like it said, Patita Pavana, right? He's the most merciful avatar because he's freely given us love of God. And there's no qualification required to receive or to practice this knowledge or this process, right? We can all take advantage of it, regardless of our background, of our race, or our creed, or whether we're criminals or whatever we are, right? There's no prerequisite to be able to practice bhakti. This is what Lord Chaitanya has given us, right? This is his mercy. This is why he's considered the most merciful incarnation. Anyone around the world, and we have ISKCON temples in hundreds of countries, and there's devotees all around the world from all different backgrounds. They're all practicing Krishna consciousness because of this mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And then in general, like, he had several reasons for appearing, but one of the main reasons was to give the world this process of Nam Sankirtan, or the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy names. And by following this process, we are able to overcome the fourfold miseries of material existence. This is birth, disease, old age, and death. Okay. So for anyone that has doubts on Lord Chaitanya, or whether that he is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or, really, like, is he a bona fide avatar of Lord Krishna? There is scriptural evidence in many scriptures. I'll give you a couple of examples here. But there are more than this that prove that Lord Chaitanya was predicted to appear and that he is the Lord. So, giving you a few examples. So from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, this verse is there. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sango Pangasta Parshadam Yagne Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. In this age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, He is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So note here, it says that he is Krishna himself, right? So he's like the very direct avatar of Lord Krishna, and he's accompanied by his associates, right? So next to him on the altar is Lord Nityananda, who is none other than Balaram, right? And then another associate that we will learn more about as we go along is Advaita Acharya. And he is, any takers? Advaita Acharya is Mahavishnu. And then there's Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Who is he? Radharani, good. And then Srivas Pandit, Narad Muni, and Haridas Thakur. Yes. Actually, I've also read somewhere that Prahlad as well, but yeah, so I don't know which is correct. So he's like it says here, right? He's accompanied by his eternal associates, and then there are more than these, right? These are just a few examples. The second example, quote from the scriptures, is from Garuda Purana. Aham purno bhavishyami yuga sandhya vishe sata maya pure navadvipe bhavishyami sachi sutta. Translation is, in the first part of Kali Yuga, I will appear in my complete spiritual form in Mayapur, Navadvip, and become the son of Sachi. And the second reference is, Kale pratama sandhyayam Lakshmi kanto bhavishyati daru brahma samipashta sannyasi gaura vigraha. In the first part of Kali Yuga, the Supreme Lord in the golden complexion will become the husband of Lakshmi. Then he will become a sannyasi and reside near Lord Jagannath. So this is kind of irrefutable evidence that that obviously talking about Lord Chaitanya. These all are characteristics of his pastimes, right? He married Lakshmi Devi, he resided near Lord Jagannath, he became a sannyasi, he had a golden complexion, he was in Mayapur, Navadvip. So these are all undeniable. Not a direct reference to Lord Chaitanya, but in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata advyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajamyaham. He says that whenever and wherever there is a decline in religion or in dharma, I descend myself. So this is another reason for the Lord's appearance. So in total, there are three main external reasons for the Lord's appearance as Lord Chaitanya, and there are three internal reasons. So I'll cover those 6 reasons today. And when I say external reasons, what I mean is that the Lord, these are more of the well-known reasons, like outwardly known, like beneficial reasons for the world why the Lord appeared. But then there's also the 3 internal reasons, which are more hidden, more internal reasons to Lord Chaitanya of his motivation for wanting to appear on earth. So starting with the 3 external reasons, the first one was to satisfy Advaita Acharya, who called for Krishna to descend, to give Krishna prema to everyone. Now, who was Advaita Acharya? We touched upon it earlier. He appeared around 60 years before Lord Chaitanya appeared. So he was quite a bit older than Lord Chaitanya. And he was a great devotee. He felt compassion for the fallen condition of the world. As I said earlier, right, the world, there was a lot of impersonalism, there was a lot of materialism, and there was a decline in sort of devotional service to the Lord all around the world. So he felt quite morose about that, and he wanted things to change. He absorbed, he observed that everyone was absorbed in material life and they were neglecting their spiritual practices. So he concluded that the solution was to request the Lord to himself appear and to restore the religious practices around the world and to restore spirituality, to negate the materialism that was prevalent. So Advaita Acharya is one of the, like if you see the picture on the wall there, right? We call it Panchatattva. He is one of the four main associates of Lord Chaitanya, mostly on the left. Like people in the back can't see it, but you'll see him when you watch the drama. But yeah, alongside Lord Nityananda, Gadadhar, Shivas, we have Advaita Acharya. And his motivation, right, as we said, was to request the Lord to appear on earth. And then, so to that goal, he decided, okay, let me look through scriptures and find the best way to request or to request the Lord to appear. So just like we would go on ChatGPT now and find, look for the answer, right? Like or go Google, right? He went to the scriptures and he looked for the right verse that would give him the guidance. So this is the verse that he came across in the Gautamiya Tantra. Tulsi dala mattena jalasya chulukainava vikrinite swam atmanam bhaktebhyo bhakta vatsalaha. Sri Krishna, who is very affectionate towards his devotees, Bhakta Vatsala, sells himself to a devotee who offers him merely a tulsi leaf and a palm full of water. So I guess Advaita Acharya saw this and said, this is my cheat code, right? This is how I'm going to get Lord Krishna to appear in the most efficient and easy way. So taking this practically, he sat on the banks of the Ganges, or the Ganga, and he made sincere, heartfelt prayers with tears in his eyes to the Lord to appear. And meanwhile, he was offering Ganga water and tulsi leaves to the Lord. And just by this simple act, he was able to invoke Lord Krishna to appear on earth. The Lord heard his prayers and decided that he should accept the request from Advaita Acharya. And in general, right, like we know that we should eat prasadam. What is prasadam? It's the remnants of food offerings that are offered to the Lord with love, right? Patram pushpam phalam toyam. So when we offer bhoga to the Lord, right, we always offer it with tulsi leaf. And by offering with tulsi leaf, the Lord will be inclined to accept it as long as we offer it with love. So in the same way, we're taking this whole application of this verse every day, right, when we offer foodstuffs to the Lord. This episode is also described in a book or set of books called Chaitanya Charitamrita, written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And that's in Adi Leela. Right? So just to conclude on this slide, right, the main reason for the Lord, one of the main external reasons for the Lord appearing was to accept the request of Advaita Acharya. And moving to the second one, second external reason was to preach the Yuga Dharma, which is the religion of the age. Now I'll get more into yugas. So as we said, there are four yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. Each yuga is a different length of time in length, right? So Satya Yuga is the longest, and the first yuga, and it's about 1.7 million years in length. It's marked by high virtue, like virtuous people, and there's very little vice or ignorance. That's followed by Treta Yuga, which is shorter by about 432,000 years, so it's about 1.3 million years long. And in that yuga, the vice tends to increase a little bit, like the level of ignorance. So there's like a gradual degradation as we go through yugas. The third yuga is Dwapar Yuga, and that again is another 432,000 years shorter than the previous yuga. So it's about 864,000 years. And in there's even more of a decline in virtue and increase in vice. And then lastly, the yuga that we're in now is Kali Yuga, which is about 432,000 years. And as we know from the news every day, right, it's full of strife, ignorance, irreligion, right? There's everything every day, right? We don't need to be reminded about the characteristics of Kali Yuga. And in each yuga, there's a yuga avatar. And the avatar is the representation of God that appears to give the prescribed process for spiritual progress that one should follow. And so the yuga avatars are incarnations, and they appear in different colors. So in Satya Yuga, the color of the avatar is, anyone know? White. Yeah. And Treta Yuga, no, there's no green anywhere. Yeah. It's just, yeah. It'll be funny to see a green person walking. Anyway, it's red. So, and then Dwapar Yuga, that's the main, should be an easy one. Black, right? Krishna appeared in Dwapar Yuga. And in Kali Yuga, yellow or gold, which is Lord Chaitanya. In Satya Yuga, so in each yuga, there's different processes, like I said, like the Yuga Dharma, the Dharma of that age. Satya Yuga, it was meditation. And when we say, so meditation was appropriate in that age because people could meditate, right? They were able to focus. Today, we can't even focus on something for a minute, right? It's hard. Our minds are very weak. But in those days, meditation was easy, right, or relatively easy, and people could do it for long periods of time. So therefore, meditation was the appropriate method that was prescribed by that Yuga avatar. Treta Yuga, the process was performance of sacrifices by qualified brahmanas. At that time, there were many, many qualified brahmanas. Today, there were barely any, if any. Right? And the brahmanas, they have to perform sacrifices very perfectly, right, for it to have the intended effect. If you're speaking mantras for a sacrifice and you get one thing wrong or one mantra wrong or one word wrong, it can have the opposite of the intended effect, right? So you have to be really expert to be a qualified brahmana. And like I said, today, those don't exist. Therefore, not prescribed in today's day and age. And then Dwapar Yuga, the process was deity worship. So Kali Yuga is characterized, like I said, vice, meat eating, intoxication, gambling, etc., right? People have short lifespans, right? We barely live to 100 years. We have weak memories. We find it difficult to follow scriptural regulations and injunctions, right? We're very confused about even like spirituality or scriptures. So there's a lot of downside to Kali Yuga. Therefore, like in Kali Yuga, the prescribed method, the Yuga Dharma that Lord Chaitanya has given is Nam Sankirtan, right? As we said, congregational chanting of the holy name. We chant in a congregation, in a group, the Lord's names. And this practice enables people to achieve what? Prema Bhakti. That's the ultimate goal, the highest goal of bhakti, is to achieve pure love of God. And prema bhakti, once we achieve that stage, right, we can go back to Goloka Vrindavan, right, which is the original spiritual home of Krishna in the spiritual world. And the prescribed mantra of chanting, right, is the Maha Mantra, right? And we can say it all together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the prescribed method that Lord Chaitanya has given us. So one thing to note here is that we saw in the previous reason, first external reason, is that Advaita Acharya requested the Lord to appear, right, because of the situation of the time. And then the Yuga Avatar for this age was actually scheduled to appear at the same time. So these are like a coincidence of the two events. So it's actually perfect timing, right, that Yuga Avatar should appear and Advaita Acharya's request for the Lord to appear. So what do they call it? Killing two birds with one stone, right? So it was and the Lord orchestrates things in such a way that things are orchestrated so nicely and timing wise. Third external reason is to bestow unalloyed loving service to Krishna upon the inhabitants of the world. Now, Lord Krishna, as we know, appeared in Dwapara Yuga around 5,000 years ago. And at that time, he gave us so many wonderful pastimes. He gave us Bhagavad Gita. He spoke it to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And this is our manual for life, right? The Bhagavad Gita, we read it. Many of us read it every day. There's so many wonderful learnings from there. However, Lord Chaitanya or Lord Krishna felt that he had not given sufficient level of detail on how to practice bhakti when he had previously appeared. And he felt there was something was missing there. Right? So the process of devotional service is something that he wanted to come back down and give to everyone and to detail its practice. So recognizing this need, the Lord had this desire to appear on earth and to give this, right? So what we see today is like many people follow the scriptural regulations. They worship the Lord in a mood of awe and reverence, or yes, so awe and reverence or veneration, right? When you see the Lord as this supreme ultimate being, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can worship the Lord in that way as the supreme Lord, and kind of a majestic view of the Lord that we have, right? But what Krishna wants and what he likes more, right? He definitely accepts that form of worship. But what he loves more is that loving relationship that he experiences with his devotees as they do in Vrindavan, right? We see in Vrindavan, there's the gopis, playing with Krishna, the gopas, his cowherd boyfriends. They're playing with him, his parents. So they're experiencing relationships with Krishna in different rasas, right? So we know that there are five main rasas: Madhurya rasa, which is conjugal love; Satya ras, friendship; Vatsalya ras, parental love; and then Dasya ras. So these different dynamic relationships exist in Vrindavan, and this is what Krishna really relishes, these types of relationships with his devotees. And this is what he felt was missing. Right? He didn't teach people how to get to that stage. So that's why he wanted to appear. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a reference to this point that although like the Yuga avatars, they establish like religious principles, right? We said that there's a yuga avatar for each yuga. Only the Lord himself can bestow like devotional, loving service to himself. That's why he had to come down himself to give this process. Okay. So now those are the three external reasons. Now I'll cover the three internal reasons. So the first internal reason was that Lord Krishna wanted to experience the love felt by Srimati Radharani. Now Srimati Radharani is a person, but also she is the Lord's like internal energy, his internal pleasure potency. And she's the person is the personification of that energy, right? So there is a loving relationship between Lord Krishna and Radharani. She is the lover and he is the beloved, right? So there's a distinction between them in that exchange. So Lord Krishna, being the beloved, he got to see it from one perspective, that relationship, but he didn't get to know what it felt like to be Radharani, to be in her shoes. And he felt that desire, like, what does it feel like? What does Radharani feel when she loves me? So he wanted to know what was that experience, right? Even though he's God, he didn't have that experience. So he wanted to experience that perspective. And if you want to take like a crude example from this material world, right? That you can take, say, a very famous person, maybe a rock star, or maybe if you think about the Beatles, right? They have millions of screaming fans that worship them almost, right? And they had, in a sense, love for the band. And then the band kind of loved their fans, but not in the same way, right? So there was like a different dynamic between the beloved and the lover in that set, right? So in the same kind of similar way, Lord Krishna didn't know what it felt like to be in the shoes of Radharani and to be loved. And the love that she experienced was so much more than what Krishna felt, right? So she was experiencing like another level of love that he was not really experiencing himself. Another kind of good example could be like a famous person. They have all their servants, they have their entourage, they who are doing everything for them, right? So they don't know what it feels like to even serve others. So those wealthy people, sometimes they engage in sort of community service or menial type service just to know what it feels like to serve others, right? Just kind of gives them some pleasure in one sense to do that. So that's another kind of way of looking at it. So yeah, so that's, so in summary, right? So the first internal reason is that the Lord Krishna wanted to experience that loving feeling from the perspective of Radharani. Now the second internal reason is to understand the transcendental mellow of himself by accepting the mentality of Radharani. Now what does that mean? What is a mellow, right? Like, so Krishna, he has many qualities, and he is full in 6 opulences, right? So he's full in beauty, wealth, strength, renunciation, knowledge, fame. And he has this sweetness like no other, right? He has this beauty like that, no other. He has it at like unlimited levels. That's why anyone that sees him would appreciate his sweetness. All the gopis, you know, they always wanted to serve him and to give him foodstuffs, and then his friends always loved to be around him, go with him into the forest. The gopis always yearned to be around him. So he had this sweetness that all these other devotees would cherish and relish, but he was not able to relish that himself, right? And there's one example where Lord Krishna saw his own reflection one time on a pillar. And when he saw that reflection, he became intoxicated by his own reflection. He saw his own reflection, he saw his beauty, and he became intoxicated because he's not used to seeing himself from the other perspective. So he wanted to know what that felt like, to cherish or to relish that kind of sweetness or his own sweetness. And who better that would relish his sweetness than Radharani? So he wanted to appear in the mood of Radharani so that he could relish his own sweetness. In 10th canto, there's also pastimes where not only when he was in Vrindavan, but when he came to Mathura, Lord Krishna, all the people came out on the streets. Just they felt a magnetic attraction because he was so beautiful. All the women would stand on their rooftops looking down at him, just charmed by his beauty. And they would throw flowers on him. And they were just intoxicated by his beauty. So this is something that, again, like he wanted to experience. And then the third internal reason was to enjoy the bliss tasted by Radharani. So in the Nectar of Devotion, which is a book that Srila Prabhupada wrote, is based on another book with Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, one of the main 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. In there's the 6 characteristics of devotional service. And one of those characteristics is called Sandra Ananda Visheshatma. And what this means is, and I'll break it down, it can incalculably condense bliss. So when we say bliss, right, what do you think of? Think of like happiness, like real, pure happiness, joy, right? But then think about condensed bliss. If that joy is concentrated and it becomes super strong, right? And then think of that to the nth power. Now it becomes incalculably condensed bliss. This is what Radharani would experience in a spiritual way. A mundane reflection of that in the material world is, say, sometimes people take to drugs, right? Illicit drugs, because they want to experience a high. So they'll take these drugs to experience a temporary high, and they'll experience extreme high, but then as soon as that drug wears off, they crash, right? So they're trying to experience, people in this material world are trying to experience this bliss, but they don't realize it. They want spiritual permanent bliss, but they're looking for it in the wrong places. They're looking for it in drugs, and then that obviously leads down a bad road. But people are looking for this spiritual bliss, which intrinsically they experience because that's where everyone came from originally, spiritual world. And they're coming here into material world, which is unnatural for them, but they're looking for the same things. So this bliss, Sandrananda Visheshatma, is what Radharani would experience all the time. She would even become mad sometimes. Like when she would see, like they say the tamal tree is a tree with a bark, a dark colored bark, and that bark color resembled the complexion of Lord Krishna, that darkish color. So whenever she would see a tamal tree, she would go mad. She would just start thinking of Krishna in her mind, she would just start feeling this bliss. Similarly, like when she would smell Krishna's scent on the breeze, she would just want to merge into that breeze because she felt that bliss, that love for Krishna. Sometimes she would even talk to the plants, to the animals, to the bees. Sometimes in separation of the Lord, she would see bees and ask them, where is Krishna? Like, think of that's like, if you saw someone doing that, you think they're crazy. But this was the level of love that she had. And that bliss that she was feeling when she just thought about Krishna. So there are divine roles in transcendental love. So Radharani, it said, is that her role is Ashraya Vigraha, which means the abode of love. So in that role, you experience love with like an unmatched level of intensity. And then Lord Krishna, he's said to be Vishaya Agraha. So that in that role, they experience love, but not to the level of intensity as the Ashraya Vigraha. And when Lord Chaitanya appeared, he appeared in the mood and the complexion of Radharani, that golden complexion. He had the mood of Radharani, right? That so he was able to experience this bliss. This is what he wanted. He appeared, and when he would do the congregational chanting with his associates, he would experience this level of bliss and this pastimes where his hairs would stand on end, he would have goosebumps, he would cry tears, incessant tears, he would faint on the ground, he would even have these like bodily transformations, right? Such was the extreme level of this bliss that had a physical effect on him, that he was experiencing. Like you can tell what Radharani was experiencing just by seeing how Lord Chaitanya was reacting when he chanted the Lord's holy names. So we've covered the 6 reasons, and just to summarize, so the first external reason was to fulfill the request of Advaita Acharya, who saw the condition of the world and felt sad, and he made a request to the Lord to appear. He appeared as a Yuga avatar, right? The Yuga avatar was due to appear, and he wanted to satisfy that requirement and to preach the Yuga Dharma, which is the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And thirdly, he wanted to bestow devotional service upon the Lord, which he thought was lacking from the world and which he had not given before. So he wanted to share that with the world so they could practice devotional service. And he came in the form of a devotee to give that example of how to behave as a devotee of the Lord. He wanted to set the example. And then the 3 internal reasons, again, right, to relish the position of Srimati Radharani, to experience love from her perspective, to understand his own transcendental mellows or attractiveness, and lastly, to experience the bliss that Srimati Radharani felt when she thought about Lord Krishna, that Sandra Ananda Visheshatma. So to conclude, right, what does this mean to us, right? Like what is our takeaway here? What's the so what of what I'm telling you here is that Lord Chaitanya has given us this process, right? He said that it's open to everyone of any background, no matter who they are. Everyone can take advantage of this. He has given us love of God, and he's given us a price of $0, right? It's free. So we should take advantage of this process. And Srila Prabhupada has given us it in such an easy process, right? He came to the West and undergoing so much strife and difficulty, physical difficulty on his way here. But he's come here, he's given us these books, he's given us a very simple process. He's only asked us to chant 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra every day. We should all aim to do that. So we chant, we associate with devotees, we should serve them. And when we serve devotees, we are pleasing the Lord, right? Lord says that it's better, he prefers people serve his devotees than serve him directly, right? By serving devotees, you should have the mood of servant of the servant of the servant, right? You should, and in our temple and in any temple, right, there's so many opportunities to serve, right? Every day, every week, there's some kind of volunteering option, opportunity within our WhatsApp groups, right? Take advantage of those. You're serving the devotees, and in the process, you are pleasing Krishna. And when you please Krishna, you attract his mercy, right? So by doing that, you're really doing really high quality devotional service just by serving. Gaur Purnima is coming Thursday. Ashish Prabhu has posted a sign up for many volunteer opportunities. Take advantage of that. And at home, right? When you eat anything, just offer it to the Lord first, as we said, right? Offer it with tulsi. This will give you, will purify your tongue. And when you purify your tongue, you slowly start to understand who Krishna is, right? So take advantage of this whole process. Lord Chaitanya has given us, Srila Prabhupada has made it so easy and accessible for every single person in the whole world. And yeah, so that's I'll finish there, 6 o'clock. But I don't think we have time for questions. But thank you so much for listening. Hare Krishna.
Hello. Yes, thank you, Krishna Acarya Prabhu, for summarizing so nicely the reason for the appearance of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As you said, we have an extra special program today with a drama at 7 p.m. in the temple room. So honoring Prasad in the temple room, we request you to